Welcome back to the South by East podcast, where we discuss the scriptures, culture, and everything in between. Brail, where are we at today?
Welcome back to the intersection, folks. We are talking about the big game, and you know that the piece de resistance is that halftime show. So why don't we talk a little bit about the game first? I knew that you were predicting that we were going to set Patrick Mahomes up to be Superman, to be the superhero, but he was looking more like Iron Man after the snap and end game.
But I my prediction changed about 2.5 hours before the game.
Why?
There was a late developing deal that happened, and I said at that moment, and I got receipts.
You said it. I'll vouch for you. You said
that I said the Chiefs are gonna lose.
And lose they did.
And lose they did.
And lose
I predicted. I was like, oh, when that certain deal happened, I said, yup, they gonna lose. And
yeah.
And it was funny. I saw this clip of Jalen Hurts walking down the corridor in the stadium while ESPN was broadcasting on the TV, and he saw all the sportscasters pick the Chiefs, and somebody clipped a picture of him right when he saw it on the TV. He was like,
Hey, that man was a bad boy. He wasn't playing. It was a rough night to be a Chiefs fan. You know, we was in the group chat, and I was trying not to say too much because I was cracking up. Not a big sports fan, so I'm watching. I don't have a dog in the fight. Of course, I'm going for the Chiefs, but it doesn't hit me like it does some of my
mean, if you go back to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Mahomes had to go Super Saiyan at the end for the Chiefs to pull it out. I mean, Jalen Hurts played that point of his career. Until this Super Bowl, that game was the best game of his career. And so, I mean, and here's the deal. After that Super Bowl 2 years ago, he made the picture of the confetti falling for the other team the background for his computer screen.
Oh man, the determination. Bro, that man had an axe.
Hey,
oh my God!
And he didn't say much. Like he didn't say much. He was just like, yeah, that's my background for my computer screen. I'm gonna remember this moment. You know how you have one of those maybe when somebody look at the camera and say, hey. He had one of them kind of faces.
That was an okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll see y'all. We'll be back. So yeah, man. Not a good night to be a Chiefs fan. If you go for the Eagles, congratulations. It was great for you. And Black History Month, even if it ain't still Black History Month, whenever you're watching this, I'm saying it because I'm feeling some kind of way this year. Speaking of which, let's get into that halftime show, man.
Hey, there's been just different times in my life where I've looked at something and I said, oh, this was nice, and this is never going to happen again. When you got Jean Baptiste doing the national anthem, you had Lettucey doing Lift Every Voice and sing the Black National Anthem. You have... and then they picked Kendrick Lamar to do the halftime show. You had two black quarterbacks. You had a black female coach. There was the first African-American female coach to ever win a Super Bowl ring. You had, it was in New Orleans.
It was?
It was in Nolans. And so there was so much in there. And, we have drafted Lauren Daigle into the camp. So, I mean, even she, she did American the Beautiful. I mean, so.
I was looking forward to that, too.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, this is somebody that messed up.
It was black as funk. I mean, the Meters funk. I mean, the Isley Brothers funk. I mean, Backward Space Cats funk. It was
Oh, and the designer of the logo was African American female.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For the Super Bowl this year, the designer of the Super Bowl logo was African American female, young lady.
It was a year,
It did,
bro.
it did. I was like, I looked at it and I said, boy, this was like somebody. When I first started preaching, my father in the ministry was like, Jonathan, don't tell them everything you know. You ain't got to tell them everything you know the first time you preach there. Because if you tell them everything you know, then they have no reason to invite you back. Yeah. And I feel like somebody that was planning all this out was like, we're not getting invited back.
We got to put it all out there.
Also, it was the first time that a sitting president attended the Super Bowl. Yeah. There was all these firsts that happened. Like it was just incredible. And so let's get to this Super Bowl halftime show.
So coming into this, I don't really watch sports. I usually watch the Super Bowl with my community group, just to be in solidarity with the community. It's something fun to do. And heading into this, some of where I was at this time. There's a few moments in my life where I've just said, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And by that, I mean America. One of those times was 2015, after the public case with Trayvon Martin. I was in my living room with my mom. Mm-hmm. She was watching the news, and she said, it's like they can just walk up and kill us in the middle of the street, and nobody cares. A few hours later, I was in my room with a friend of mine, and he's a lighter shade, and we were talking, and I was like, man, what do you think about all this stuff? And he said, it's just a shame they got it on the news. It shouldn't have been publicized. And it was at that moment, dude called my mom. Like, we're close. But it was at that moment that I realized we live in two different Americas. We live in two different Americas. We see the same moment in time on two different sides of reality. And I've lived with that ever since. And there's some times where I'm just like, I don't want to be here. When I looked at what was coming up for Super Bowl Sunday.
Can I hit that before you move?
Yeah.
Because I was at a different point of life. I was an adult, and I was one of the very, very, very few minorities at a predominantly white evangelical church. Mm-hmm. And I remember when that hit, how many people were trying to explain why Trayvon deserved to get shot. Mm-hmm. And then I remember somebody, I attended a secret church deal. If you don't know what secret church is, it's this thing that David Platt does every year where they take a deep dive into a topic of scripture. And so it's like a 6-hour theology, just fire hose. And I had a hoodie on because it goes late into the night. Mm-hmm. And somebody made a joke of, hey, you might not want to wear that hoodie because they might shoot you like they shot Trayvon. And I was like, ho, ho, ha, 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 ha. And
alternate realities, bro.
And so you just see, and it's like, okay, all right. And so, but yeah, so we have moments. We have moments.
And it's like, for me, it was a distinction of like, we live in two different places. We do. We live in two different places. And when I saw this halftime show coming up, I was like, I know who Kendrick Lamar is, longtime fan. I know what he does, and I know he loves to tell stories. And I was like, after being in so many spaces, I know you can relate to this, of having to explain and re-traumatize myself by explaining my experiences, having to validate my own emotions, having to explain to people who don't even understand how they've hurt me, just for them to go back and hurt me again. Looking at this upcoming Super Bowl, and I said, that halftime show is going to be for me. I don't got to explain it. I don't have to defend it. I don't have to figure out where I fit into it. My world is going to be on the screen. And I know that my friends who live in America 2.0, that they're not going to understand it, and I'm okay with that because there's going to be a message for me. And bro, I just want to say, like, that day, like when we got home from church, I was just like,
I know you were on
cheesing.
cloud nine. You were
My
on cloud nine
fam
leading
was
up
looking.
to it.
I was like, fam, and it wasn't even the music. It was just like, I'm like, fam, my life is gonna be, it's gonna be validated. My experience will be validated today, and
But here's the deal, and I shared this with you, and I don't know if you noticed until I pointed all this out. One, I had never listened to Kendrick Lamar until you introduced me to him, and I've listened to a couple of his albums. Going into the Super Bowl, I was like, oh, okay, this is somebody we've discussed on the podcast.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had not heard before the Super Bowl, and I doubt he sung the whole song then. So I still haven't heard the whole song of "They Not Like Us."
Yeah.
I have not heard his latest album outside of what Brail is introducing me to for us to discuss on the podcast. I had not heard it, but I was looking forward to it because I know that he's a great storyteller from the stuff that I've gotten, and so I went into it saying, this is not going to be a show that I sing every word to. This is not going to be New Edition for me.
Right.
This is not going to be. This is not going to be.
It's not gonna be nostalgia for you.
No,
it's not
no.
Gonna be...
But I said there's going to be something about this that I link with because he's a great storyteller. So I'm going in looking for how he's going to tell whatever story and message he wanted to communicate with. And Braille was like, will tell you early on I was like, the imagery and the artistry that he is putting into this is amazing. And I was like, oh man, this is off the charts. The human heart. I mean,
Yes.
art. And I like early on, I started catching all these things. Like I was like calling out all these things because that's just me. And I was like this. And did you see this piece? And did you see this piece? And before Burrell could even come back to his phone, he had a list of messages for me just like.
Oh yeah, because I wasn't checking my phone.
But it was like me. I was just catching all these different. I was like, oh, and this message and this.
Yep.
And so those are the parts that I enjoy going in. But I'll tell you the same thing. Rolling Stones wasn't really for me, and I found something to enjoy in that. Katy Perry wasn't really for me, but I found something to enjoy in that. If you look at YouTube, I like some YouTube songs, but that wasn't really for me. I found something to enjoy in that. Beyonce was not for me. I thought she was a great performer. The Weeknd, not for me. Found something in there to perform. Now Dre and Snoop, that was for me.
That was for you.
Mary J. Blige,
yeah, that was for you.
That was in my wheelhouse.
you.
That was Michael Jackson when I was a kid. That was for me. Prince, that was for me. But my deal is even in the ones that it was not necessarily just my deal.
Yeah.
I've been able to go in and see something I appreciated, but I try to always enter spaces in that way because I've been in so many spaces in my life that wasn't necessarily designed or catered to me. And I know that if I go in with a mindset of I'm not going to enjoy this, then that's exactly what's going to happen. But if I go in with a mindset of there's going to be something here that I can appreciate, then I do find that.
Man, and I'm like, if you don't have a connection to it and it's not your thing, we live in a country, but how many people go to the bathroom? You know, I mean, for real, like, bro, you know me, I've always been the one of like, let me bring people along and let me explain. I'm like, go to the bathroom. You don't have to enjoy it.
But you don't always have the capacity for that every time, man. And you shouldn't feel bad for that.
Yeah, and I'm saying you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And like, man, bro. So we open up. First thing that comes in when he comes in, there's a song called Hood Politics, where Kendrick goes, it ain't nothing but a slew of new Democrats and Republicans. And he connects the rivaling Crips and Blood gangs in Compton to the rivalry of the two-party system and how people ride for the Republicans, or people ride for the left, they ride for the Democrats. So when I saw the people come out in the red and blue jumpsuits, I was like, oh, the Democrats and the Republicans are here. Then he gets to get people with the white come out, and then you see this assortment of all black bodies build the American flag with him standing in the middle
of it.
To America. Bro, when I saw it, I was like, yes. And then he recontextualized a lot of his songs. So he's got a song called Humble. It's one of his biggest songs ever. I always thought Humble was like kind of mid in the catalog. But one thing I love about Kendrick is in every live show, he never does a song the same way twice. when he does a song, he won't just perform the song. He might change. If you know the song, he might change verses. He might bring in new verses over the same beats. Whatever it is, it's going to change the context of how you look at the song. Not dissimilar to what we do in worship. And so when I saw him do that, I was like, okay, I saw this American flag. And then in the middle of this American flag, he says, I remember syrup sandwiches and crime allowances. And I was like, oh, his experience of growing up in this other America. I was like, yeah,
but bro, and here's the deal. The imagery of so many times in that performance where he put himself in the middle of the flag and other things, when for so long in our story we've been on the outside. And it's just like he wanted to make sure the center, like the story was centering. when so often we're footnote, we're afternote. He was centering
our experience.
Oh man!
And then you had Samuel L. Jackson. Like, I mean, of course we saw this, but Samuel L. Jackson giving the commentary. Oh man, that's too black. That's too ghetto. Too ghetto. You got to bring it in. And then he comes in and does some of his hits, the stuff that you would expect. Now I saw the company man talked about. He was like, you know, a lot of time for a Super Bowl performance, you're gonna get an artist's greatest hits. The stuff that is the most accessible, the things that the most people know. So even if I don't know Kendrick Lamar, I heard that song on the radio, my kids sing that song. But he did almost a whole set of deep album cuts.
Yeah.
Deep album cuts. And the only time he really did big hits was during the section where Uncle Sam said, nah, you ain't playing the game right. You need to give it to us. So then he comes and does All the Stars, which was soundtrack to Black Panther. He comes out and does Luther, which is an R&B joint with SZA that all my kids knew that they're singing. He does Homeboy. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he's like, yeah, but I'm done with that. Comes out with Not Like Us. Plus, in between there, he does Peekaboo, which there's so much lore behind that.
So in the same frame that I told you my history with Kendrick, I got to tell you, I've never listened to a Drake album. I have never heard a Drake album.
Congratulations.
Have never heard a Drake album.
Congratulations. You're all right.
I know the videos that everybody mimics of the Hotline Bling or whatever else. I know that people say I started from the bottom.
Right. Yeah. Now
and so that's just where I'm at. But I'm telling y'all creating a super villain.
Stop.
Cause I'm telling y'all are out here creating a super villain. And you know, although I had no dog in the fight when it came to the football teams, I had no dog in the fight in this Kendrick Drake kind of deal. But I'm here for a good joke all day long.
Say Drake. Bro.
Hey, Drake.
My man with that cheese.
You cannot call somebody out like that on site.
Yeah.
On site. I know I might get beat up, but on site.
On top of that, for one, you know that's about to get played forever. And then for two, he created a meme out of it. When he did that, when he had that moment, people are already taking that image and memeing it everywhere.
Have you ever heard of Duolingo?
I have.
You know what Duolingo is?
I do.
Duolingo, for y'all that don't know, is an app that helps teaches you a different language.
Right.
Well, they came out with a little video saying, log on to the Duolingo app where we can teach you Spanish in A minor. And they had all these little cartoon figures singing A minor. Hey, man. You're not going to win 5 Grammys on a diss track on me.
Bro,
it's just like this.
You might get an Emmy now.
Hey, my deal is it was already at one point, right, with the Grammys and everything else. And then this whole deal was super, and I'm just seeing stuff. Y'all creating a supervillain.
Listen, bro, and so it's like
that boy's gonna become Lex Luthor, and he's gonna be developing a special atomic weapon because y'all done took this too far.
I'm not gonna say Drake is done. I know he might come back, but boy, that was rough. That was the beatdown of a century. And like my thing too with Kendrick, I feel like in the beef, I was really critical of Kendrick because I had high expectations of him. And I feel like Kendrick could rap circles around Drake. Drake is a good rapper, but I feel like Kendrick could rap circles around Drake easily. And I was critical of Kendrick because I was like, bro, you're making this a culture debate and really you just don't like, you got good reasons not to like Drake, but you don't like Drake. Don't bring me into this. Don't make this about the culture and protecting all black women. I don't buy it. But at the Super Bowl, I bought it.
Remember, I was like, is that Serena Williams?
At the Super Bowl, I bought it. He brought out Serena Williams. I was like,
and you like, I don't know. I was like,
yeah,
I
no,
think that
y'all
was
were right. It was Serena.
I was like, I think that's Serena Williams.
But here's what made me buy it too. Kendrick could have gained a whole lot of new fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kendrick has the versatility that, like, my wife was upset looking at people from back home where she's from responding and reacting and hating on the Super Bowl halftime show, and she was so upset. And I was like, Kendrick could have avoided all that. He could have done. Kendrick got a song about alcoholism. Kendrick, like this, a hit. Kendrick got hold up, but Kendrick got all sorts of beautiful things that he could have done, and he could have gained a whole lot of new fans, got a whole lot of money. He gave up the bag to give us a cultural moment. And I was like, you know what? I believe you now. I buy it.
I think it was part of that. I think the cultural moment is part of it. I also, in all this, I feel that in the way that Patrick Mahomes is good at football, Kendrick is good at being petty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that was a display in pettiness to the highest of petitivity.
Hey.
And I'm just...
That's a part of the culture. The rap battle was also a part of the culture.
I'm just telling you, the level of even the commentary, like the dances, the little part that they said, I was like,
you know they like to sue. I want to do their favorite song, but you know they like to sue. And then I found out after the game that they sent, they sent another another lawsuit against Kendrick right before the game, like 2 hours before the game, saying, don't perform not like us, or we may take legal action.
So, this boy had a flag corps. He had a flag corps. He had people with flags with with kids holding up little kids holding up A's on them, and people running around the field.
He had the little
waving.
And
I'm like, how much petty did it take to design all this?
It was, oh my gosh, it was such a moment, dog. I felt so affirmed. I've just been good. I've been all right. I've been watching Trump interviews. I'm like, this is okay. Like all week, I just been like, I'm good. Like I'm good. We gonna handle that, but I'm good because we won.
There was just a level of petty in that I was just like, I don't know if we're gonna ever see this level of petty again.
I hope not. I don't know if we can handle that.
I don't know either. I don't know if the culture can handle it. But what says you? What was your favorite snack? I know I made some crawfish pies using Red Lobster cheddar butter biscuit mix as the dough for the crawfish pies. That went
I didn't do nothing like that.
Pretty hard. And so it was a new experiment. What says you? What was your favorite commercial? What was your favorite snack? Let us know. And your favorite moment from the Super Bowl. We look forward to interacting with you in the intersection.